My name is Adam Eason. My name is wonderful, beneficial changes in your life. Why beneficial in particular ways? Logical, rational, and analytical.
All over the place and see all those historic places: Bethlehem, the Golan Heights, Nazareth, the Sea of Galilee. Has some real adventures. Upon arrival in any kibbutz, they take you to your accommodation, and then they allocate you a working role. And I was told that fruit picking was very hard physical work, but good hours, and I really liked being outdoors, so I agreed to do this. And I fancied it a lot more than kitchens, washrooms, or other indoor environments that you do get allocated when you're new. There was a choice, you could work with light cheese, yummy, avocados, or the banana plantation. Part of the year was spent reaping the crop, part of it maintaining the fields and the fruit. Some of the work was spent readying for future crops. Now, I said I wanted to work on the banana plantation. It was picking season when I was there, and I had this image in my mind that this was going to be wonderful. I kind of imagined myself roaming freely about the plantation with a basket in one arm, lazily filling it with bananas while conversing with my fellow workers about their interesting journeys, how they came to be here with me now at this stage in their lives. This image gradually and slowly but very thoroughly began to be shattered when I was told by several of the kibbutz elders that I just simply would not be able to cope with the banana plantation work. It was the time of year for picking the crop, as I mentioned earlier, and this was very physically demanding, apparently. They told me that after the picking part of the season was over, in a few weeks I could go and work there tending to the baby trees. Great. Some rather muscular, ragged Arabic workers from Yemen who were hardened to banana plantation work. They also advised the kibbutz elders that I was in fact far too thin, and that coming from England, unused to manual labour, I simply would not be able to handle it. I got to admit, this made me want to do it even more. I was sure this was going to be good for me to do. I insisted, and finally they gave in. They accepted that I needed to be taught a bit of a lesson, and they told me I could come back the next day if I wanted to be assigned somewhere else. Great. Okay. Now, upon telling my sort of newly made friends among the kibbutz at a welcome meal, I was starting to feel even more apprehensive hearing all the horror stories that I was being told about work at the banana plantation. I got picked up at 5 a.m. on this morning when I'm clung to the back of this tractor. We went out in the early morning sunrise on these tractors, a bit of a convoy of them, filled with other workers. Let me explain some basic facts here. Bananas are picked when they are green and hard. They ripen on their way to the markets for sale. They're not in a bunch of sort of 5 or 6 bananas as I buy them in the supermarket here in the UK. Far from it. They hang in the trees in bunches that weigh between 50 and 100 kilograms. Some bunches weighed as much as I did. Finally, have you ever seen a banana tree? They are tall. The bunches of bananas are high up in those trees, Knowing this, let me explain how they're picked. Okay, the head guy, Roberto in this case, short, stocky man wielding a long stick with a shortened scythe-like blade on the end. Now, he chooses which field we work in. He then walks up the line of banana trees, and us pickers follow him in line. He spots a bunch that's at the right time of its life to be picked. The first worker in the queue then has to stand underneath the bunch and catch it when the leader cuts the stem with his long scythe-like instrument. Now, these bunches, they are hard, they're heavy, and they're falling at some pace. You then have to put the bunch on your shoulder, carry it all the way across that particular field of banana trees, and the pathways are covered with a kind of thick, dense foliage of long fallen banana tree leaves to where the tractors are, and you hold out the bunch with a kind of quivering breath, straight out, holding your shaking arms at full length, a bit like one of those exercises of endurance that you see on the World Strongest Man competitions. And while the bananas are then tied to a rail to hang, then you go back, join the line of pickers, and you do it all again. And this is done for several hours until the sun comes up fully, it's too hot to work, and then you go back to the kibbutz. Now, Another factor worth bearing in mind is that the picking is a part of the season that's fairly brief, so it has to be done quickly, rapidly, to bring in as much of the crop as possible in as short a period of time as possible. In addition to that, the banana plantation is highly valued as a main source of revenue for the relatively poor kibbutz. Any damaged crop represents a significant loss. Now, being stuck in the back end of Israel at a young age, as I was, with 12 Arabic workers, 10 further Israeli kibbutzniks, who I'd never seen the likes of before, apart from on films at that stage in my life, all scrutinizing my every move. I suspected that I might not arrive home if I dropped a bunch of bananas or didn't catch a bunch right. The only training that I received was having the privilege of going last in line that day and watching all the others do it first. Needless to say that as the line gradually, as I got nearer to the front of the queue, I was getting a bit nervous. It's extremely humid out there too, not conducive to calming down. So there I am, pale-skinned, lanky, red-haired English guy, perspiring through nerves, standing at the foot of a banana tree, with a bunch being cut methodically above me. My feet were positioned as correctly as I could get them. A bunch that must have been 70 kilos comes flying through the air and lands directly on the bone of my shoulder. Ouch. And the entire bunch snaps in half across my shoulder. My legs give way, and I stumble, slip, fall to the floor, covered in this bunch. Now, I'm sworn at, shouted at, cursed at a variety of tongues. In fact, the group leader screamed at me. In addition to that, one of the Arabic Yemen workers nearby told me in his pidgin English that he did tell me so. Yeah, thanks. I then had the extremely difficult task of carrying this. It was quite unlike anything I've ever tasted before in my life. It was kind of like coffee-flavoured medicine with a thick layer of tough grit at the bottom. It also had an effect on me that meant, despite being heavily tired and fatigued, I was also very now wide awake and wired up. We sat in the sun, sipping our tiny glasses of coffee, and they chatted in their home tongues, and I looked around and felt pretty good. No one said much to me that day. There was certainly no well done or anything of the sort. I'd not done anything more than they had to do every single day after all. However, I'd become one of the team, Other volunteers from across the world that were there on this kibbutz, were amazed that I'd survived. When I walked into the dining hall that lunchtime, the working day was 5 a.m. to 1 p.m. for me, it was a real sense of achievement and pride that I had. The kibbutz elders looked on and, didn't mention it again. I worked there 6 days a week doing this kind of work for quite a period of time. I always had a red face following my work, partly due to the exertions of the work and partly due to my own sort of natural complexion and colouring. This combined with the fact that I was quite a live wire, a little bit mischievous at social functions, traditional gatherings, meant that I was nicknamed the Little Devil by all of the kibbutzniks. And believe it or not, I got a lot of respect for my work and my effort, regularly invited to private meals with families, and I learned a lot about them and myself during that period in my life. I talked about my work to the others as if it was just something that I just did, and began to develop in many different ways. Now, why on earth am I telling you this? This is about self-hypnosis, isn't it? This story of mine demonstrates huge amounts of self-hypnosis being used in many different ways that were unknown to me consciously at the time. At that stage in my life, I had no real idea what self-hypnosis was, and I'd not discovered it properly yet, The experience was one filled with self-hypnosis, internal communication, and drawing upon resources that already existed within me. We all communicate with ourselves in our own special way. It's just that we're not always progressive with ourselves or positive in the right ways. We all do things that require our resources to be channeled from time to time. This CD set, this audio program, is going to show you how to do it consciously, all the time, how to achieve excellence at will. That is, to know that you are doing it. This is an audio set about stress management. It's about natural childbirth. It's about becoming a non-smoker. It's about how to be in control of your size, shape, and weight. It's about how to increase your confidence, how to sleep better, how to distort your perception of time, and of course how to relieve pain. This set, the Secrets of Self-Hypnosis set, it's about communication and language and how to use them for the best with yourself. Because You see, all of these things are within your abilities to be in control of, given the right tools. And this audio set is just about doing that, giving you the right tools. Now, you're going to learn what self-hypnosis is and what it is not. You're going to learn that self-hypnosis is something that you're already very familiar with, and that you're learning to utilize it and actually start using the vast resources that already exist within you. You're going to learn how to enter and leave hypnosis, and you're going to learn a lot about how to use language to make the most powerful updates and changes in your life, the ones that you want. You're then going to learn about the practical applications of self-hypnosis and how to incorporate it into your life and be in charge of your own life, how to achieve things that maybe you've only dreamt about up until now. Just bear this in mind, no one has the right to control you. Not your friends, not your family, and not old, outmoded way of doing things, Self-hypnosis is a tool to help you take control of any or all the areas of your life. So relax, enjoy, take a quick break, and we'll be right back. Okay, welcome back. I had a guy referred to me some time ago now, a couple of years ago. He referred to me by one of London's top psychiatrists. He strolled into one of my treatment rooms here at the centre that I run, and he let out a rather enormous, needless to say, it was a rather dramatic sigh, and slumped into the chair. He said, I'm taking Seroxat. I was on Prozac. I've been diagnosed by several doctors as having clinical depression for the last 12 years. I've been seeing one of London's top psychiatrists for the last 5 years. He referred me to you. I think I'm going to be very difficult for you to deal with, Mr. Eason. Now, I could not help but laugh right there in front of him, to which, naturally he frowned. He frowned and looked at me and said in a rather less, apathetic, a more serious tone, he said to me, "Don't you think you should be taking my problems a bit more seriously, Mr. Eason?" "No way," I replied. You are taking your problems far too seriously for both of us. If I wanted to be really good at being depressed, I would take it really seriously. There's lots of other therapists around my locality, here who will pander to you in that way and take your problems very seriously, but I won't. We both sat for 3 very long seconds of silence. Look, I said, I run marathons, half marathons, other long-distance races regularly, and I consider myself to have a lot of endurance. But that level of endurance is nothing compared to the endurance that you must have to have gone to the same psychiatrist for 5 years. Having gone for 2 years and having little success, what on earth possessed you to go for another 3 years? This amazed me, and I explained to him that's the reason, and I giggled, that's the reason that I laughed. And he said to me, one of the things he said to me was, that it gave him the opportunity to discuss, his poor childhood experience, poor relationship with his parents, the breakdown of his marriage, his underachievement at work, and his poor relationship with his own children. And I said to him, how has all of that stuff helped you? I knew that him and I were making some stunning progress because he came into my clinic a few weeks later when we'd been working together a few sessions, met me in the reception area, and he made a joke at my expense in front of my staff. That's right, he openly mocked me. I knew he was making progress. I kind of gave one of those laughs and smiles through gritted teeth. Okay, so let me just explain, that each kind of audio chapter, if you will, of this set, it's punctuated with my own particular brand of humor and idea of fun. Most importantly, lots of it's going to be tongue-in-cheek, please bear that in mind, but I like to have fun. Self-hypnosis should be fun, and it really is fun. Please refuse to take this stuff seriously. Enjoy it. Have some fun discovering what it is you're going to be discovering. Every single aspect of this program has been compiled with that in mind. So please be aware that, if you want something mundane and dull and then this is not for you. Please be aware of that, especially if you think that my manner is a little bit unusual from time to time, or that I'm labouring particular points from time to time. There are reasons behind all of this. Okay. Now, maybe you're about to experience self-hypnosis for the first time. Maybe you've amassed large amounts of experience and knowledge about it already. You may want to use self-hypnosis for a very specific reason. Now, this audio set helps you achieve all those things regardless of whether you're a beginner or experienced. A couple of things for you just to be thinking about right now. You know, this set, the things that I'm talking about here, this is not the law. You do not have to follow every single letter of this program to the law. Please just allow yourself to use it in a way that resonates smoothly with you. There may well be some aspects of it that you don't agree with or that you don't like, whereas other parts seem to resonate with you deeply and wonderfully and impact upon you. The aim of this set is to facilitate, not dictate, your experience and your skills, your development with self-hypnosis. You know, I've been told of a certain story several times by differing people as I've made changes in my own life. And it goes a bit like this. A young man is running down the street with a violin under his arm. He frantically stops and asks an old gentleman nearby, "How do I get to the Albert Hall?" And the old man looks at the desperate young man and he somberly replies, "Practice, practice, practice." Now, what a hoot that is. But, you know, self-hypnosis is just the same. I spend a lot of time each day in hypnosis. Part of my work as a therapist and consultant is that it means that I often have to spend a lot of time with people that are emotional, distressed, or ill. After most client consultations, you know, I use my self-hypnosis to wash, almost cleanse myself of that session's effect upon me. For many years, I've been using self-hypnosis daily to get the most from it. I recommend that you do the same. You know, athletes train and practice their skills, and we do it with most other things that we want to become not only competent at, but excellent at. And I recommend also that you do want to allow yourself to become excellent with self-hypnosis, because it is something that can help you achieve some seemingly miraculous things in your life and of your experience of life. Now, what's more, anyone can be excellent at using self-hypnosis, employing it in their lives to create more excellence for themselves in whatever way that you interpret that to be. So follow this program methodically. Follow it in the right order. It's in the order that it is in for specific reasons. Learn about the phenomena. Develop the correct expectations. Then practice getting into the state of self-hypnosis, controlling it, acquainting yourself with it, and developing it. Then begin using and utilizing it for relatively simple things and create success, as a deep and profound, wonderful foundation for you to build upon to move on to achieving, the more miraculous stuff. Things like world domination, that can come later. Okay, so the more thorough you are, the more thorough and profound your results are going to be, of course, like most aspects of life. So be relaxed when you're listening to this program. Not too relaxed if you're listening to it in the car. Listen to it again and again. Pick up certain things that maybe have not sunk in the first time round. Consider taking notes, jotting down ideas when and allowing the information to flow over you. Let it wash over you in the same way that waves of warm, soothing water wash over your feet when you're paddling in the sea or the ocean on holiday. Allow the information to access your deeper unconscious mind so that the things you're learning about simply become inherent in your life, so that you don't have to consciously think about employing these skills and abilities. They just become part of the way in which you naturally are. There are going to be certain times when I ask you to do certain exercises throughout this program, okay? The most success is going to be achieved with self-hypnosis by those that do complete these exercises. Do not allow this information to simply be listened to and stored within you, along with all the other stuff that you've learned and don't use, Do the exercises. They're designed to get action and get this stuff wired into your neurology. Notice how doing these things make you feel, and how that when you actually do things, they become far more usable than just a theory of doing them. I want to help show you how to really do some amazing things with yourself and with your life, with your brain. And I can only do that if you follow the instructions in the correct order and do the exercises. And I thank you in advance for doing that. And I know you'll thank me in the long run when you've done them. Now, if you have some particular issue that you wish to deal with, a reason that you invested in this program, you might be tempted to race to the section that deals with that. Please listen to this in the order it's presented. You know, I'm laboring this point. I can't stress this point enough, and that's why I've repeated it to you here. You know, this is a guide to success. Allow yourself to be guided correctly, and you'll discover some wonders. As you're going to find out, hypnosis is a natural phenomenon, a usual state that you are going to use in order to answer a few questions that you may have, and also dispel a few myths and misconceptions about the phenomena of hypnosis in general. You know, I still meet people that come to me, or that see me as clients, or that speak to me, that believe that experiencing hypnosis is like being unconscious. And I always reply, what would be the point of that? Spending money and time to be unconscious in someone else's company. Hey, you can do that down the pub, or, you know, if I wanted people to be unconscious, I'd keep a cricket bat in the corner and simply bash them over the head when they came in. So it's important that you also know that hypnosis is not about being unconscious. It's equally important that you have the correct expectations about the hypnotic experiences that you're going to have. In order for you to fully understand hypnosis, it is important to understand and differentiate between two levels of mind. For the purpose of easy understanding, I'm going to continue referring to the mind as two distinctly different things. Excuse me. The conscious and the unconscious mind. Now, by that I'm referring to our conscious mind, which is where we are now, I hope, and just below that level of awareness is our unconscious mind. It's also known and often referred to as the subconscious mind. Now, the conscious mind is where we usually spend most of our waking time. You know that internal dialogue we have in our mind that thinks, what shoes shall I wear today? Well, that's your conscious mind. Your conscious mind basically does 4 things. 4 whole things. Firstly, your conscious mind analyzes. What is that? Well, that's the part of us that looks at problems, analyzes them, and tries to create solutions to those problems. It's the part of us that makes decisions all day, every day. Shall I open the door? Shall I have something to eat? Even though these are automatic behaviors, we make a conscious decision about whether or not to do these things. The second part of our conscious minds is our rationale. That's the part of us, especially in Western cultures, it always has to know why things happen, why we behave in particular ways. Like the guy that kept wanting to know why, from your immediate focus. If you take that conscious awareness and point it outside, then that's what we're talking about. But if you point it inside to become aware of your inner self, your unconscious self, which is the part of you that we work with in hypnosis and the part of you that you're going to become more and more acquainted with as we progress through this audio series, your unconscious mind, it's tremendously powerful. It automates as much behavior as it possibly can so that you don't have to think about doing stuff. For example, there was a time in your life where you had to be shown how to tie your shoelaces. Now, I'm guessing that by this stage in your life, as of today, you know how to tie your shoelaces very well. And you don't even have to think about doing it. You just do it automatically. I have a lonely auntie who, as a boy, my mum used to ask me to phone on a weekly basis, as this would make her happy for some reason. And I can vividly remember hearing her lighting up a cigarette, heavily exhaling the smoke while she was on the phone. She didn't even think about what she was doing. She just associated smoking with being on the phone. It happened on autopilot. Human beings, we are amazing learning machines, and we learn behaviors and habits, and then our unconscious mind automates them and does them on autopilot so that we don't have to think about doing them. Your unconscious mind has within it also your long-term memory. Just about every blade of grass you've seen in your entire lifetime stored away in your long-term memory. And it serves as an amazing storehouse, a storage center. These memories affect us in varying different ways, some more than others. Sometimes our ability to remember them is not as fluid as we need, though. It's not necessary to have all our memory in the forefront of our minds. For example, right now, this moment, it's unlikely that you're thinking about everything that happened to you on your last birthday. Unless it's today or was yesterday. However, me just mentioning it, you can dip into your unconscious mind, into your long-term memory, and remember, or at least get snippets of what it was that you did. Profound or highly emotional events, weddings or a birth of a child, for example, stand out in your life much more than what you had for dinner 9 years ago. Unless, of course, it was a truly magnificent lobster thermidor with caviar niblets. Or maybe just a divine plate of beans on toast. Now, however, you'll know whether you've had that lobster thermidor or not. Whether you liked it or not. What's more, you pretty much always know and remember whether you like certain foods or not, even if you've only had them once, and that one time was a long time ago. Another example, if you've ever seen a live stand-up comedy show, I'm a big fan of live comedy. You watch the comedian and laugh. Or not, as the case may be. You laugh heartily, and as you listen to lots and lots of jokes, hundreds of them, and then when you leave the venue, you can remember none of them or one of them at best. Then a week later, a friend that you were with can say to you, Adam, do you remember such and such a joke from last week's comedian? And I think, yeah, and as you bring that information out from your long-term memory, you know that you know the joke. It was just not in the forefront of your conscious mind. It was tucked away in the deeper unconscious. Your unconscious mind knows more about you than you consciously know that you know. Sounds rather confusing. Just think. As you are reading these words, you're breathing. Your heart is beating. I do hope both of these things are true. You're digesting. Your body is regulating its temperature. It's doing a vast range of wonderful things without you having to consciously think about doing it. You're not sat there at the moment thinking to yourself, I really must remember to breathe. I must keep my ticker pumping here. We are not machines. There is an intelligence within us that knows how to do these things. And it's that intelligence that we tap into with self-hypnosis. Your unconscious mind is where you get your gut feelings, your instincts, your intuition, that communicates with you sporadically from time to time. Like when sometimes someone can be saying all the right words to you on the surface, but you get a different feeling about them. I worked with a lady a little while ago, and all the time she was sat opposite me, really still, deadpan, except for a tiny action of playing and fiddling with her wedding ring. She was sliding it up and down her finger, and every now and then she took it off and tapped her leg with it. While doing this, she was telling me how happily married she was. Now, my instinct, my intuition, my gut feeling told me something else. She was behaving one way and talking another. There was some incongruence there. Upon further discussion, it became apparent that she was not happily married. My gut feeling told me something over and beyond that which I was hearing in the open. It's like I used to have to go and see my bank manager a lot in the initial days of my first business, being set up. Now, he would tell me all the right words. He told me everything that I needed to hear. Great. However, there was something about him that made me want to give him a sideways, slanted look, treat him with a bit of suspicion, maybe. That was my instincts, my gut feeling, and that is your unconscious mind communicating with you as it sporadically does. Your unconscious mind is a bit like a computer. In many ways it's not, by the way, but it's a magnificent biogenetic computer. Throughout your entire lifetime, it's been programmed with all your experiences, relationships, interpretations of the world, influences, and all this has culminated in your computer functioning with that programming. Self-hypnosis is a simple way of accessing that computer and updating that programming so that it becomes instinctive and intuitive for you to make the changes or the updates that please you. Your unconscious mind, it's the seat of your emotions, it's where your behaviors exist, and it's that part of you that we work with self-hypnosis. Hypnosis is a way of us stepping over your conscious mind and accessing the unconscious. About human beings, by the way, that this guy, given a choice between death or stop smoking, still needed my help. Sometimes humans just seem to embed certain behaviors so deeply within them that they can't even help themselves avoid death. Woo. Anyway, I digress. Now, I said to the guy, well, pretty good motivation for wanting to stop death. I presume you want to stop. And he said to me, oh no, I love smoking. It's one of my last few remaining pleasures. I had to send this guy away. I cannot make him do something that he doesn't want to do. He was very annoyed with me, I hasten to add. I said to him, come back and see me when you know that you really want to do this. He came back a couple of months later. I wasn't prepared to take his money until I knew that he would have some success as long as he wanted to do it. I mean, could you imagine if I could do things, make people do stuff that they didn't want to do? Imagine if anybody could use hypnosis to do that. Wow. Be a bit of a naughty place. I could go and see my bank manager and make him give me £1 million without returning it. If I was that kind of person, of course. You never read about baddie hypnotists making people rob banks or anything else absurd, because it cannot be done. A young lady had booked an appointment to see me to free herself of her phobia. She'd had claustrophobia for 20 years. I think it took us about 20 minutes of working together to free her of it. She still emails me every now and then to tell me how well things still are for her. When she arrived for that appointment, though, she followed in her boyfriend, who was accompanying her. Big guy he was. As soon as he walked in here, he said, I don't believe in all this hypnosis nonsense, mumbo-jumbo. And he mumbled some more under his breath. Well, I said, good job I'm not working with you then, eh? You sit down here, in the waiting area. I'm going to go and work with your girlfriend. Oh, no, he replied. I'm coming in with you. Give him a puzzled look. And I said, well, what do you want to come in for? You got a phobia as well? And so he told me, you might make her do things she doesn't want to do. You might make her pay more money than she's supposed to. And, he explained that he was here to look after that not happening. Now, again, I could not help but laugh and giggle. I said to him, when you came in here, you told me that this was all nonsense and you didn't believe in it. But now you're telling me that you believe I can make your girlfriend do things she doesn't want to do, make her pay me more money. If you believe that, surely you must realize that I'd be able to do the same to you too. I explained a bit more, I even said to her, do you think that if I was the kind of person that would do such a thing, that I'd choose you two to do it to? Surely I'd choose maybe Richard Branson, Donald Trump, Bill Gates, get them to empty their bank accounts rather than getting an extra £10 from you guys. It just can't be done. We explained a bit more. People usually then say to me, okay, Adam, I understand what you're saying, and all this makes sense. However, I've seen stage hypnosis and seen people dancing like chickens. Are you telling me they want to do that? No. I'm saying that these people are not being made to do things they don't want to do. When someone buys tickets to a stage hypnosis show, they're already being permissive to the notion that they're going to see hypnosis for entertainment. They expect certain things to happen. They're expecting entertainment. Secondly, when the stage hypnotist asks the audience, who wants to come and be on stage, the people that agree to do so or put their hands up are saying, yes, I want to be hypnotized. They're not being made to do anything you don't want to do. They're not big burly men with cattle prods forcing people up on stage. The stage hypnotist ensures that individuals on the show are receptive, they follow a large number of compliance exercises, and it begins to create the illusion that these people are doing things that they don't want to do when they're not. The hypnosis can help to step over the inhibitions of the conscious mind to a certain extent so that the individuals behave with more openness. They just cannot be made to do things they don't want to do. Often a stage hypnotist may suggest a certain technique to assess the individuals for their compliance or their suitability. It doesn't mean that the people that are not responding to that technique cannot be hypnotized. It just means they're less responsive to that method. That is all. If someone was going to take me into hypnosis, okay, and they started by asking me to imagine that I was sat on a pink, fluffy cloud and there was rainbows and birds tweeting around my head, I'd be thinking, what? Are you going to bore me into hypnosis? I'm just not a pink, fluffy cloud kind of person. However, there's a group of people that come to my center and they run a guided visualization meditation evening. And they love that kind of stuff, It doesn't mean that they can be hypnotized better than me. It's just that they respond to certain things better than me. With self-hypnosis, you get to choose what you respond to. Hurrah! You can do whatever you want in your own mind. Anyone can be hypnotized. I work with a very wide range of people for all manner of issues. Insomniacs, heroin addicts, schizophrenics, people experiencing chemotherapy, many, many more. These are often people that are convinced that they cannot relax, they cannot be hypnotized. As long as they want to, they all can and they all do. All that is required is that you have an open mind, you have a good degree of positive expectation, have progressive, motivated thoughts about the processes, follow the structure initially especially, and allow yourself to help yourself make the changes that you want and that you deserve. Now, I'm sure that during certain self-hypnosis sessions, there may be times when your conscious mind will be thinking, am I in hypnosis? What am I supposed to be thinking or feeling? That's your conscious mind thinking that thought, interfering. We're going to be discussing this in more depth later on. Now, there's going to be times in your self-hypnosis practice sessions, especially in your early practicing, when I'm going to be asking or suggesting that you imagine things. Imagining things do not have to mean visualizing, okay? If I ask you to think of a favorite place, you can imagine what it would be like. You don't have to be seeing a picture-perfect cinema screen version of it in your mind. You can imagine, sense, think, or just know it without seeing it or picturing it in every detail, okay? If I ask you to imagine the sound your feet make when you walk across gravel, you know the sound I'm talking about, you can imagine it, but you're not necessarily hearing it in your ears, you imagine it. That's all you need to do, okay? Now, I'm going to touch lightly on an idea for now for you to remember. And that's that hypnosis, I'm going to re-emphasize this. It's not like being unconscious. It's almost like having a heightened awareness. It requires you to want the changes to happen, have an open, positive mind as best as you can, and allow the things that happen to happen, without trying to grasp at what you think should be happening. Just letting it happen with focus and intent. Hypnosis is just an altered state, just like nervousness, confusion, excitement are altered states. Okay, take a break. We'll be right back. Now, as you are going to be learning, self-hypnosis is the communication between two levels of mind, between the conscious and the unconscious. As we discussed, the conscious mind, as you've already been aware of, it's the questioning, the analytical, intellectual part of your mind. The unconscious is the emotional, the autonomic part. There are two types of hypnotic communication that we distinguish between in order for you to have a fluent understanding and use of self-hypnosis, and these are natural hypnosis and intended hypnosis. Natural hypnosis is just natural communication. It happens all the time that you're awake to some degree or another. It's like the examples I've mentioned already when you're driving in a car, reading a book, or sat in a classroom. It doesn't have to be a boring classroom, it can be an exciting one, or simply when you're daydreaming. With naturally occurring hypnotic phenomenon, you're usually not aware of the communication that's going on within you. I can remember attending a business networking function in Bournemouth once. It was a very early breakfast meeting, and I was half asleep and also rather bored. And I'd been cornered by a couple of local businessmen, and I can recall a moment when they were both looking at me expectantly. They were awaiting my reply from a question that one of them had asked, and I was blissfully unaware of it. I'm sorry, could you repeat that? I was very embarrassed. I felt utterly rude. I had to make sure that didn't happen again. This is a naturally occurring hypnotic state, much the same as when you're tranced out in front of the television, not focused in a business meeting or in a restaurant. I find that, there's so many activities that kind of send me off somewhat. There don't even need to be times when you're being sent off, so to speak. When I'm running, for example, a very, very hypnotic experience. The quality of naturally occurring hypnosis varies. Everyone experiences natural hypnotic trance states many times a day. We are often just not aware of them, or we just don't label them as a hypnotic trance state. Many hypnotherapists would state that the best hypnotic communication and experience of hypnosis is when we are relaxed and the conscious mind is less active. Exactly like when we're daydreaming, for example. However, it's not absolutely essential to be in a deep, relaxed state to benefit from self-hypnosis. Of course, it can make it more pleasant and enjoyable. Now, there's also a powerful communication between the two levels of minds when we experience some intense emotion, you know. If someone suddenly burst into the room that you're in at the moment and started shouting at the top of their voice, fire, fire, you know, you'd feel panic or some other intense emotion, you know, demonstrating a lot of communication going on within you. You know, your state would be altered. That's exactly the same. Let me give you some examples of natural hypnotic states, natural trance states. You know, things like driving, going to sleep, waking from sleep. You know that sort of yummy feeling when you're not properly with it yet? When you're cooking, relaxing, laughing, crying, panic, as I just mentioned. When you exercise, fishing, making love, learning, listening, talking, watching television, listening to music, reading, dreaming, playing an instrument, swimming. You know, these are all things that are naturally occurring hypnotic trance states. Now, what I'd like you to do right now is take a piece of paper and a pen and make a note of at least 10 times that you've experienced naturally occurring hypnotic trance-like phenomena. Please take a piece of paper and a pen and make a note of at least 10 times when you've experienced naturally occurring hypnotic trance-like phenomena. And believe me when I tell you that you have literally millions of examples to choose from in your life, you know. You've just not called them that before. Okay, do that now and come on back. Okay, now you definitely did that, didn't you? Please make sure you do this stuff. Now, second up, intended hypnosis. We've just been talking about natural hypnosis, now intended hypnosis. When hypnosis is used therapeutically or by ourselves for self-hypnosis, it is intended. We're doing it on purpose instead of drifting into it without our knowledge. Intended hypnosis is simply natural hypnosis with awareness. So the great thing is, you now know that you've experienced hypnosis many times before, at least on the 10 occasions that you've written down, and now all you need to do is learn how to use it with awareness, how to structure it, as we're going to be learning. Now, the reason that intended hypnosis is the best quality of hypnotic communication is simply because you use it with awareness, control, safety, intention, and depth. Guaranteed depth. All hypnosis is natural. There's nothing unusual about it at all. You know, it happens to all of us all the time. It's just developed some rather unusual connotations over time. Hypnosis is an experience common to all human beings. We all know how to do it and have experienced it before. We just didn't think of it as hypnosis. Okay. So here's the next exercise for you to do. Underneath your previous list, I now want you to write a list of things that you or anyone does that has no level of hypnosis or trance involved in it at all, okay? Make sure you do this before we cannot. And this is the reason we need to learn how to go about this process of entering this state with intention, controlling it and using the most beneficial forms of communication to allow the changes that we want to take place. Now, remember this. You know, write this down, say it out loud, whatever you can to make sure that you're remembering on many different levels. The only time you're not in hypnosis or some kind of trance influential state of some kind is when you are in non-dreaming sleep. There's always some kind of communication happening within you. Okay. So, ever since reading The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murphy, when I was a younger man, I've loved this idea of imagining my mind as a garden or as a landscape, and that I'm the one responsible for its upkeep. You know, we plant seeds of thought and belief in our garden, sometimes without even knowing that we're doing it. And as you add the elements as well, you know, with your internal environment, those seeds develop. Imagine that your unconscious mind is richly fertile land, and the thoughts and the beliefs that you sow will grow regardless of whether they're good or bad, you know. So we're going to be learning about how to sow the right seeds for you to experience your life with happiness, goodwill, prosperity, health, well-being, whatever it is that you know you want to experience. Now, I'm sure that you have experienced an occasion when you listened to a song on the radio and you couldn't remember the artist. Then a couple of days later you were lying in bed and bam, you remembered it. Just out of nowhere it appears. Your unconscious mind continues working on the instructions that you feed it. So best to feed it well and sow powerfully progressive seeds. Maybe you have trees in your garden. A marvelous sight to behold is a leaf spiraling from a tree. Amazing how that tree knows how to let go of what it no longer needs. In that garden, flowers often grow. Watching flowers grow can be a bit like noticing progressive change and update happening in your life. If you sit and watch too closely, you don't notice much happening at first, but as you get on with your life and sow the right seeds, those flowers bloom more beautifully than you may ever have imagined. Up in those trees, birds may sing. I love the song of a bird, stopping and listening to that, connecting with it. I wonder, how hard do you think that bird has to think about what note to sing? Of course it doesn't. It just does it. That bird already knows more than it knows that it knows. Confusing? Now, how much more creative and resourceful are you than that bird? More than you realize. Exponentially more. So how much more do you know than you know that you know? Confused? Well, maybe it is time for you to sing your own song. Fill your garden with beautiful sounds without thinking about what note to sing. Within the structure of self-hypnosis, in this audio set, you're going to see, you're going to read, you're going to understand that your conscious mind becomes the director of your self-hypnosis, and it's the director of your unconscious mind. It sends and directs orders to the unconscious. And your unconscious will follow those orders and directions if done correctly, convincingly. We're going to focus on the language of self-hypnosis later on. However, think about how you define yourself linguistically, or with your thoughts, I run seminars, for example, on confidence building, and very often I get someone in the audience that boldly says to me, "Yeah, Adam, I'm just not one of those confident kind of people." That is some statement to be telling yourself and the rest of the world. That statement is sent off into the depths of that marvelous data processing system that is your mind, and it becomes reality. The more it's said and thought and believed, the more it resonates with the unconscious and becomes an order, almost like you're giving yourself a directive. Statements that you speak in your mind or to others, statements like, "I am this, I am not this, I do this, I always do this, I don't do this," whether they're spoken out loud or thought to yourself in your own mind, they exclude the opportunity to be anything else when they're persistently sending that message to the unconscious. If you say you can't do something, you are perfectly right. When you say you or think you can't do something, you end up shutting down the opportunity for your unconscious to do anything else. Remember, whatever you believe to be the truth is the truth for you. If a regular member of the public, if such a thing exists, if a regular member of the public steps out of the shower in the morning, sees themselves in a mirror, now I'm not talking about someone who berates or criticizes themselves, they just see themselves in a mirror and they think, "Ooh, I'm overweight." Now that person's telling himself or herself every morning that they are overweight, and they learn to believe it, and that way of communicating in their own mind becomes belief and continues to happen regardless of what fancy diet they're subscribing to at that time. It's the same with someone who smokes. I spoke to a lady the other day, and when she lit up a cigarette during a smoking break at work, she would take a drag on the cigarette and utter to herself, "I needed that." She was telling herself she needed that. It's such a powerful message to consistently be sending to your unconscious mind. This is self-hypnosis occurring without thought. You're sowing seeds with your thoughts, your feelings, and your beliefs. This is fundamental to understanding your unconscious mind. If you think good, good will happen. If you think bad, bad will happen. Of course, it's not always as black and white as that, but get that notion into your head as we progress onto more complex things, Once your unconscious mind accepts an idea, it begins to execute it. It executes whether it's a positive or a negative idea. Despite treating the conscious and unconscious mind as two separate entities, for the ease of understanding here in this audio program, please note that they're simply two spheres of your mind, and they're also very much part of each other. Now, on the self-hypnosis seminars that I run, I ask for a volunteer, often right at the beginning, because I want to take someone into hypnosis as an example for all the others to observe. And I often ask the class afterwards to tell me what they think I was doing to take that person into hypnosis. Let me give you an example of some of the replies I get from the group. Some people say you changed your voice. You asked them to focus on their breathing. You stared at them in a funny way. You made them focus on one particular thing. I don't know. Okay, so now all of the above could possibly have been true. However, I always ask them the question next. What makes you think I was doing anything at all? What if I was not doing anything? Have you considered that? Maybe I was doing very little. Have a think about that for a moment. It's a belief that many in these related fields that all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. The idea here is that the individual actually takes themselves into the state of hypnosis. It's simply facilitated by the hypnotist. When I was born, I wasn't born with a magical gift that I could wield at anyone and render them into a state of hypnosis at will. You are the ones that take yourself into hypnosis. The hypnotist facilitates you taking yourself into that state. With this program, this audio set, we are just taking away the hypnotist out of the equation, and you become your own hypnotist. You are always in control. It's your hypnosis. This notion may well seem contrary to your previous understanding or belief. However, I'm hoping that by now we've given you a better understanding. That mysterious aura about hypnosis is just not deserved. It is a natural, usual state. You experience it all the time, and we're just going to be learning how to use it with intention for ourselves. Okay, now that's the end of Volume 1, the first CD. Make sure you've really understood all of this stuff before you progress on to CD 2, and I look forward to speaking to you then. Best wishes.